afternoon, everyone. Today, we have the honor and privilege of having my old friend and a very dear one, Father Dr. Victor Edwin, to talk about relevance and practice of interreligious dialogue. Victor Edwin is a lecturer at the Vidyajyoti College of Theology, New Delhi. He is a Catholic priest. He teaches theology, Islam, and Christian-Muslim relations at Vidyajyoti College and several other Catholic theological institutes. He is also the director of the Vidyajyoti Institute of Islamic Studies. Besides, he serves as secretary of Islamic Studies Association, Delhi, and edits ISA Quarterly, Salaam, a quarterly journal to promote understanding. He holds a master's degree in Islamic Studies from Aligarh Muslim University and earned his licentiate in theology from Vidyajyoti College of Theology before gaining an MPhil in Christian-Muslim relations at the University of Birmingham, UK. He holds a PhD in Islamic Studies from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. You're welcome, Father Victor. You have up to 3 hours. You can finish it early too if you wish. So over to you. And I remind all the participants to keep their cameras on and microphones off during the whole session. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, dear brother Behzad, and dear sisters and brothers. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm very grateful for this afternoon. I have this opportunity to be with you to share my experience on understanding of dialogue, its significance and relevance in today's world. I thought in the first part of my sharing, it's not a presentation, it's more of a personal sharing. To talk about dialogue, not only theoretically, but also as a person, what is dialogue for me? On how I have grown through this experience of meeting others. I come from a small village in the southern part of Tamil Nadu, far away from Chennai. And probably 4 or 5 generations ago, my great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers, they must have been Hindu, followed Hindus and lived, worshipped, and celebrated their life as Hindus. Probably, I think the 5 generations ago, one great-grandfather and grandmother, they decided to become Christians. I do not know the circumstance in which they became Christians, but last 5 generations we live as Christians joyfully, with good contact with our Hindu neighbors and relatives. And my mother continued to have, now she is no more. She had a lot of good the customs of Hindu customs. She has a sort of Christianized in her life and in our family life. So comfortable for me to be among Hindu friends, Hindu brothers and sisters. Then as a Christian, I'm born a Christian, I'm baptized in a Catholic family. My father and mother were quite a pious type of village people, quite pious type of people. They were school teachers, primary school teachers. And they brought us up in my brother and myself. We are only 2 children. Brought us up in Catholic faith and studying in a Catholic school, regularly attending the services in the Catholic Church. But always guided me in respect for other faiths. That is something which I really recognize and respect. In my village, there are Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. And we are taught that we should respect the faith of the others. How did they did not say it in words. They did not teach us a lesson, but show it in their own life. For an example, the Hindu feast and Muslim feast, they exchanged pleasantries, they exchanged food, they exchanged clothes, buying new clothes for others. So all this type of life dialogue, they have shown how to live among people of other faiths, a beautiful coexistence. So the first point I insist is the atmosphere from which I come has given me a sense of living in no peace with others. Coexistence is the part of our life. We can affirm a particular faith, at the same time we can happily coexist with others. That is one of the first lessons that I have learned from the family I come from the village I come from. Then after completing my college studies, I studied in St. Joseph's College in Tiruchi, one of the South Indian towns, one of the very old colleges, a Jesuit college. I studied science. After my bachelor's studies, I felt I am called to be a priest, to serve God and to serve people. To become a priest is a long turn of training, several years of training, studies, and also living as a celibate life. That is, living as a single, in the service of God and service of people. So I started my journey. It took 12 years of several stages of my formation. The initial formation, then studies in philosophy, then working in a Jesuit school, and then finally studies in theology. Maybe after 12 years of my formation, I became a priest. But interestingly, right in the beginning, after 2 years of my initial studies, I had an opportunity to attend a course on Islam given by a Jesuit priest, Paul Jackson, an Australian priest, and a scholar on Sufi studies. He translated the literature, the Malfuzat and Makhtubat of Sharafuddin Maneri. Makhtubat, the letters, and Malfuzat, his guidance given in the gatherings. So those Persian material, 13th century material, he translated into English. He developed as a very good scholar on Sufi studies. He gave us a course on Islam. In that time, I realized something like this. I wanted to follow him. I wanted to study myself, entering into a deeper understanding of Islam. So I kept the interest. I kept reading small little books, essays, articles on Islam, Christian-Muslim relations. So that I grew along with this interest. When I studied philosophy, I studied something, read some essays on Islamic philosophy, read some essays on mysticism. Then I came to theology. I began to read more on how Muslims understand revelation. What is revelation for? How do they understand the Holy Quran? What is the role of a prophet? What is the history of Christian-Muslim relations? So like this, I began to read some serious books, longer articles in the international journals. Our library is very good. So this is how I came to recognize that being a Catholic priest is not something which is exclusive, but I am at the service of all. My service should go beyond. It also involves understanding others, knowing deeply about others, what sustains the faith of the others. Of course, as a limited individual, I cannot study all the world religions. So, one religion, I felt I am called to study Islam. So before becoming a priest, I had an opportunity to, I chose to go and stay in a village to learn Urdu. I want to enumerate two experiences which brought me closer to the heart of Muslims without excluding others. The one is my learning Urdu. I stayed in a village close to Delhi. Uh, a watch repairing man. Uh, he accepted to teach me Urdu. I stayed in the church in a small room, and I went to meet him every day in his watch repairing center. So we agreed that I go to his shop, small shop in the village, and he will teach me to write Urdu, read Urdu. So we were supposed to meet 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. But as weeks went by, first week, second week, so slowly we became really interested. He was very interested in teaching me more. So I used to go by 9 till stay up to 12 o'clock, 2 3 hours of reading, writing, and also conversation. Many Muslim, no, many, it's a Muslim village, so people come and look at who is this strange character floating around in this village and learning Urdu. They asked me, why do you learn Urdu? Why, who are you? So, lot of conversation. I began to speak to them, explain to them in Urdu. It's a beautiful conversation developed. The end of my stay, the fourth month, I returned. Before returning, I put money in an envelope and wanted to give it to my teacher because he agreed for a particular sum of money at the time. So I put the money in an envelope and last day I gave him. And what he said actually changed my whole approach towards my life mission. He told me, Victor, you came here as a student, but you are departing from here as my brother. So it was deeply moving for me. I shed tears. Uh, what does it mean? This experience means to me, a Catholic Christian, a Muslim friend, Muslim teacher. He says that you came here as a student, you are going away from here as a brother. Somehow I felt number of borders and walls that divide us were falling. We belong to one human family. Yes, we are Christians and we are Muslims, we are Hindus. We have our religious conviction. Wonderful, important. But beyond this, we belong to one human family. That was a beautiful experience, which became something, a cornerstone, more changed the direction in my life. After that, I went to Baramulla, a place in Kashmir, where we Jesuits ran a school those days called St. Joseph's School. One year I was sent to teach the children. It was sometime in 92, 93, just after the peak of the struggles and troubles. Um, the classroom which I entered, one of the window pane was left unrepaired. It was it was a mark of it's a broken window pane. That was a bullet mark. The school was damaged several times. They kept repairing it, but one window pane, the principal left it unattended just to see, just to feel how broken humanity is there, how much they struggle, they go through. So for me, that broken window pane was something which struck me very much. Slowly, the students, I began to teach 7th standard and 8th standard, all subjects, history, science, maths, I was teaching. I began to really understand the children's. I realized they all have suffered, they are all suffering. So somehow they gave me an experience of what suffering means. And I began to closely watch the children, and their words and their attitudes became a lessons for me. Then I began to reflect on the gospel, the Bible. looking at them and what they tell me, what they teach me as a Christian, how I should serve them. Then I realized that, for long, it was a journey from my mind to my heart. So Baramulla is a very important experience where I really began to love Muslims. And also there are a lot of Sardarji children. I began to love them with my greater commitment. So these two experiences somehow gave me a direction in my life. What is my life all about as a Catholic priest? It is not just confined to a church and looking after the Christian community, but as a Catholic priest, I am at the service of everyone. I'm at the service of my Muslim brothers and sisters, Hindu brothers and sisters, Sikh brothers and sisters. So that's how my world, my view opened to be more inclusive. Then I did my studies, deepening my understanding of Islam. Because as a limited human being, I can't study all the religions, I said. I began to deepen my understanding of Islam through Islamic studies. Several years of reading books, studying, and then meeting Muslims. So I kept these two things very clearly. Knowledge from the text, knowledge from people. These are two important pillars of any approach to people of other religions. Dialogue of religions with people of other faiths, we need two strong pillars which I learned. One is the human communication, meeting people of other faiths. The other pillar is textual knowledge, books, what Muslim scholars talk about, what is the text to say, how the text is interpreted, how it is being lived out in the history of Christian-Muslim relations. So I learned that these are the two foundations which I should keep moving. God was very generous, always generous to all of us. So God was generous to me and He is generous towards me, and I kept growing on that. So over the years, I reflected on my own experiences. So this is the first part of my reflection. The second part, over the years, I met a large number of Muslim friends around the world, attended conferences, met them personally at home, in the madrasas, in the universities, and mosques. Also, as a teacher of Christian-Muslim relations in the Catholic Institute, I try to practice this when I teach Islam, Christian-Muslim relations. I'm doing it in a number of places. Wherever I teach, I make sure that these two components are being met, along with the classroom instructions by a Catholic priest on Islam and asking them to read some of the texts, essays, and a couple of books. I also make sure that they meet Muslims, variety of them, in the madrasa or mosque or a Sufi shrine, professor or a social activist or a young scholar. So I give them, make an opportunity to meet them. So I practice that. So over the years, a few things which I have, as I reflected, I put them in some categories that I'm going to share in the second part of my sharing. One is, I ask myself, what is interreligious dialogue? First of all, dialogue is not between two systems. It is between two human persons. It is not a dialogue between Islam and Christianity. It is not dialogue between Hinduism and Christianity. It is dialogue between a Muslim and a Hindu, a Christian and a Hindu. It is conversation between conversation between two or three persons, maybe a group. It is always between persons who hold their faith in their heart. These two, three persons, when they are in conversation, they do have significant differences. As a Christian, The faith convictions are different. As a Muslim, faith convictions are different. We have significant differences. We can also have similarities, but significant differences. We need to recognize that. If I begin to see others from my own lenses, from my own perspective, then that would not be a fruitful dialogue. It will be like a panoptic view. This word, no, panoptic means from a particular vantage point from where you look look down upon the others. We have significant differences. We recognize that. And interreligious dialogue is, in the name of interreligious dialogue, in the past, there were many polemics. Polemics is a very important word in the history of Christian-Muslim relations, in the history of Hindu-Christian relations. Polemics, I try to say that my religion is superior to yours. A supremacist understanding. Polemics is to find a fault with the faith of the others and say, mine is right. Here I have seen that in the past, by reading the history, the tendency to compare what is ideal for me with what is practical with the other. In the history, in Indian history itself, we'll see the polemic. One example I would like to give, the Jesuit priests in the 16th century, when they went to the court of Akbar, when they had conversation, that was polemics, not dialogue. They tried to say that Christian faith is intellectually we can hold reasonable faith, whereas Islam is not. So that type of polemics. So polemics is not interreligious dialogue. In polemics, there will be a lot of heat generated, argument, anger, but there won't be any light. That's what I learned from history. Polemics generate heat, never light. Second form of this type of the failed forms of dialogue is debates. In Urdu, mujadila, trying to reason out, showing that this will be the better way. The debates. The problem with the debate is both the groups would say that we have won. It's all winning the battles and losing the war. Winning the battles of small victories. So I have won this debate. You have won that debate. No, I have won. So both parties will claim that they have won the debate, but they lost to gain the heart of the other, establish a rapport with the other. So both polemics and debates are not religious dialogue. Interreligious dialogue is a new way of thinking and seeing and reflecting on the other. A new way of understanding the other as brother and sister. See, the Urdu teacher, my brother, I met him afterwards several times in Ratol. What he taught me interreligious dialogue is a new way of seeing me, new way of relating with the other. He began to relate with me as a student, but he showed me how he has began to see me as his own brother. He is very less educated. When that time I was more educated. But a brother today, he is less educated, but he has shown me a new way of seeing me. He opened my eyes to see the reality in a new way. That is dialogue. So my brother Muhyiddin, he taught me what is dialogue, a new way of seeing. And it's also dialogue. Dialogue is about open-mindedness, not a closed, narrow mind trying to see the faults and trying to gain an upper hand. No, it's open-minded. With an open mind, we appreciate Appreciation is important. They appreciate the differences. Yes, in Hindu faith is like this, Christian faith. It's an appreciation of others who they are. Many years ago, I read a book called Hindu Festivals, a Christian Appreciation. What a wonderful book it was. A scholar, he's a philosopher. His name is father. He taught us in Pune. I'm not getting his name. Hindu festivals, Christian appreciation. How much beautifully he appreciates the different Hindu festivals. So dialogue is about appreciation, the differences, an appreciation of plurality in the world. Affirming this world is plural, pluralistic, uh, different religions and cultures and languages, they are richness. Plurality is richness. We cannot homogenize everything. Wherever there is an effort to homogenize, it always will be struggle and problem. So dialogue is appreciation of plurality, the richness of nature and richness of the world. You look at the nature, it is it's very plural, diverse. The trees, plants, and climbers, all different, but all make the nature as beautiful. Similarly, God has created us in different way. No one is looking alike. No, if all of us, imagine all of us, men, women, all look same, such a boring world it would be. So diversity is God's gift to this world. So we need interreligious dialogue is appreciation of plurality. Then also, very importantly, interreligious dialogue is about shedding one's exclusiveness, superiority, thinking exclusively, and thinking oneself about superior. My faith is superior. My faith is reasonable, and my faith is the real truth. A monopoly over truth. And we need to, one who is interreligious dialogue, to shed the triumphalistic attitude, turning everything into Christian world. It's all rubbish. Interreligious dialogue is not about triumphalistic. It is not supremacist. It's about humility. Humility marks a person in interreligious dialogue. Before I enter into a world of Hindus, before I enter into the world of Muslims, before I enter into the world of Buddhists, before I enter the world of Sikhs, God is already there. I'm not going to give God. No, God is already there. So I enter with humility. That is interreligious dialogue. And interreligious dialogue also to learn. Listening is an important component of dialogue. I'm sorry, I'm speaking too much. Listening is very important component. The primary purpose of interreligious dialogue is to learn. When I open myself and listen to you, I am mutually enriched. If I am open to learning, then many of my prejudices will go away. Lot of prejudices are because of due to ignorance. I do not know who a Muslim is. I do not know who a Hindu is. I do not what is his or her faith conviction. I don't know. So I gather information from media. I gather information from hearsay, rumors, and I have an idea of who a Muslim is. No, I must listen to. I must open myself. So I found, while teaching Islam, Christian, Muslim relations over the years, I found 3 types of ignorance among Christian students about Islam. One is a simple ignorance. They don't know. So you give some facts and they understand and they open. There is another type of ignorance is blind ignorance. some stubborn attitude and unwilling to open, unwilling to change, there we need to give hard facts, sustain conversation, trying to help them to see differently. So that is the second type of ignorance. The third one is culpable ignorance, rooted in ideology, and not ready for the cognitive change. So that is very difficult type of ignorance. So while listening, while meeting, while opening ourselves to new experience, we are challenged. Our ignorance is challenged. We learn and we see things in a new way. And also I found there is a miracle in learning about the other. The miracle is I become enlightened about my own faith. The miracle of interreligious dialogue is when one is involved in interreligious dialogue, he or she understands and experiences his or her own religion in a new way, in an enlightened way. Why? Because I realized, I learned, when I begin to view closely other religion, listening to my Muslim friends, listening to my Hindu Sikh friends, I begin to review some of my own convictions, convictions in the light of the learning that comes from you. The light of the light comes from you. Then the new learning about myself, I begin to see some of the treasures. I have certain treasures. The light that comes from you illumines the treasure. So I see it in a different way. I'm more enlightened about my own religion. So in interreligious dialogue, no one will lose one's faith. Rather, he or she will get deeply rooted in one's own faith and also open to other faith. This is my experience. The more deeper the roots, the healthier the branches. You reach out with much freshness to others. That's why there is a saying, take roots and take wings. We become deeply Christian, deeply Muslim, but beautifully open to people of other faith. And interreligious dialogue is also to give witness to one's faith. It is not losing one's faith. It's not compromising the faith of one's faith in interreligious dialogue. That's not a real dialogue. If I compromise my faith, you would not take me seriously. Brother Behzad would not invited me to speak, to share with you my thoughts, if I am not taking my Christian faith seriously. So in interfaith relation, we give witness to our faith in a beautiful way, in service, in listening, in appreciating, and understanding. Knowledge and essence of one's faith. With courage and convictions, we live the truth that we hold in life, in a deeper commitment for the common good. So here, as an authentic Christian, authentic Hindu, authentic Muslim, authentic Sikh, we enter into conversation with others. So we will be mutually enriched. We will be deeply understand our own faith in a much brighter light. And so there's a mutual enrichment possible. I talked to you about what is dialogue, that what I have learned. Now I would like to share a few points, a few things which I have learned. Why dialogue? Why dialogue? See, we are Christians, Hindus, Muslims, we live. So why to know about others? Why to engage? What is dialogue? Why to dialogue? Question is very important. Many ask that. First and foremost, we recognize religions are different. And the differences are real. The differences cannot be ignored. For example, we teach also, that's something very important, like all paths reach to one summit, all rivers reach to one ocean. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes, they are. The paths reach to summit, the different rivers reach to one ocean. God is one, certainly, no doubt. But what is important is to see that each path and each river are specific. To give you an example, when you are climbing a summit hill, if you take, every path will have its own beauty. Not all the paths are same. Each path, no, you to climb from the eastern hill, you find, no, you have a different view, different beauty. You climb from the western side, it has its own beauty, unique. It cannot be replaced. It's not the same. Differences are real. We have to accept that. But doesn't mean my path is the best path and yours is a long path, yours is a hard. Each path is graced by God. So differences are unique. Then we can share, when we meet summit, we can share the richness. So each is very important. And sincerely, we need to respect the differences. If differences are not respected, then the dialogue would not be, it would not continue. It will stop. It will be very superficial. And another learning is these differences need not lead us to conflict. Because I differ from you, I need not cross swords with you. Differences can be a great factor for uniting us. Our differences bring us richness of being together. So richness necessarily does not need into conflict. But if I don't understand the differences, if I think that I am better, then there is conflict. Then there is polemics. Then there is debate. But if I respect it, it can bring us, unite us, and bring us richness and understanding. And that makes dialogue also fruitful. In dialogue, we do oftentimes in the polemics and debates, there is a tendency to belittle the faith of others, condemn the belief of others, condemn the practices of others, make others derogatory remarks, make fun of the faith of the others. This all will hurt the sentiments of others. One has to be extremely careful. The etiquette, the nuances, the sensitivity, the sensibleness of others we need to learn. That is the demand of dialogue. And religion has unity power. It can unite people. Unite people, it can be inclusive, bring people together if it is interpreted in the right way, interpreted in a proper way. And moreover, in this modern world, in the postmodern world, even post-truth world they talk about, where there is the media and fake news world, the media world, post-truth world they call it. Dialogue is important because anyway, whether we like it or not, religions meet, people of different religion faiths meet. Today there is no different, completely a Christian world and there is no Muslim world. Everywhere Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Hindus are all living together throughout the world. So look at Australia or America. Everywhere Muslims are there, everywhere Christians are there, everywhere Hindus and Sikhs are there. So today the world is not geographically separate. All people of all faith live together. So, and also the transnational migration, tourism, business, mass media, higher education, internet brings people together. So young men and women who live and work in the modern world, of different religious faiths, they fall in love and get married. They need to really recognize the faith of the other, respect the faith of the other. Then the married life would be fruitful. So we need to really engage in this form of dialogue. I stop here for a moment. If you want to sort of clarification or your comments, then we shall continue for some more time. Any comments or any questions?
Vishal? Yes, Vishal, go ahead.
Hello, am I
Yes,
audible?
yes, you are.
Good morning, Father Victor. I'm Vishal, and I did my graduation from Jamia in economics. Father, my question is it religious morality or simply the need to coexist that makes us coexist with each other?
Thank you. It's a very good question. Why should we, no, in another way, why do we need to dialogue? I would say that, uh, the secondary reason is sociological reason, because we have different people, people of different faiths live together in this nation, so we need to live in coexistence. So that we understand. So sociological reasons important, but for me, I think it is secondary. For Christian, for me, the primary reason for dialogue and coexistence comes from my faith, and for each comes from his or her own faith. For me, God is one. And God, the Christian faith affirms that God created all of us, man, woman, each one of us, all of us, as God's own image and likeness. And in a sense, we are all belonging to one family of God. We are all God's children. I cannot ignore the other, my brother and sister. So, as my faith demands me to see the other as my brother and sister, if uh, if I recognize that demand of my faith, I cannot simply close myself in. I need to reach out to the other in love and in service. So for me, that is a most important reason for entering into dialogue. For me, as personally, the theological reason. And God's presence is there everywhere. Every religion, there is the ray of truth there. I need to recognize that. I cannot simply say that my religion is the only true religion and other religions are false religions. No, my faith demands to see God's light in the other religions, because God is present everywhere. God is a spirit. God is spirit. God is present everywhere, in you and in your culture, in your family, in your tradition. It's there. So I need to recognize. So for me, that is the primary reason for entering into dialogue. Thank you, Vishal, for a very important question. Sociological reasons, certainly yes, that is secondary, but theological reasons primary.
Behzad sir, can I just give my comment, please?
Yes, please. Yes.
Father Victor, this is Sabiha More, and I am a teacher educator in a B.Ed college, and it was very nice to hear your personal anecdotes of understanding another religion, you being a hardcore follower of a particular religion, and how it gave you a chance to mingle and understand other religion is exemplary. In the present social scenario, where people are hell-bent on dividing people on the basis of religion, whether it is anti-conversion law or whether it is, stigmatizing a particular community for following a particular faith. And I don't want to differentiate between which community and which faith, but then we are stigmatized, or we are stigmatizing people because they follow a particular faith. And uh, I am but not able to forget the story of Sister Rani, who was killed by Samandar Singh in 1995 in broad daylight when she was trying to board a bus from Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, where she had gone to do her missionary work. And Samandar Singh killed her, and Rani's sister's elder sister forgave him. And today Samandar Singh has converted into Christianity, and he says Indians, the hope for Indian are Christians. I mean, it is there what is available in the public domain. I didn't meet Samandar Singh, but when I teach peace education, I do refer to this kind of incidents in my class to make people understand. Since you travel a lot and you are a theologist at a particular college which talks about religion, how do you feel is the nerve of the country? Are we really going to become hardcore in following religion in a country in a particular faith, or are we going to really allow people to coexist and mingle with each other so that everybody can live here peacefully? I'm also reminded of a beautiful couplet written by Gulzar Saab. Since you know Urdu, I would like to recite to it to the entire people who are gathered here. And he said, um, चमन में इख्तलाफे रंग बू से बात बनती है, that in this beautiful garden, if you are different flowers and different smell, then only it makes sense. चमन में इख्तलाफे रंग बू से बात बनती है, हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. So in this beautiful Indian Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, we are hell bent on painting an entire city with one particular color or entire mindset with one particular ideology. What is your take on this, Father Victor? I really am very worried about it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your comment and also your question. Yes, I appreciate your comment. See, lot of prejudices and misinformation make each of us strange to one another. See, the misinformations about you and but the prejudices I have about you make me as make estrange us. When there is an estrangement, and there will be fear and uncertainty. Who are you? What will you do to me? There's prejudice, misinformation about others. That leads to sort of estrangement. I become a stranger to you, you become a stranger to me. When we are estranged from one another, there is fear and uncertainty about you. Fear and uncertainty about me in your heart and mind. So fear, uncertainty, threat, and hostility, and some violent reactions. These are all when it becomes a way of life when there is misinformation and estrangement, misinformation and prejudice. Dialogue is a curing medicine for that. But the dialogue demands us to know the other from what you are. I listen to you, your position, your faith conviction, and your what your heart, how you live your faith. Then I understand you. I understand you much better. Oh, I heard like this. Oh, I thought like this. That goes. I know who she is and what she is her religious conviction and what is her how she looks at the world. So there is there will be more understanding, mutual understanding. But certainly the politicization of religion leads to interreligious misunderstanding, and the reason, the result of it is conflicts, riots, killings, and wars. The world history is a great example. Interreligious, for example, France and Britain were fought with each other for 100 years, both Christians, but Catholics and Anglicans. So they have different commitments. So estranging from one another, hostility, war. So we are not new to it. And secondly, my own personal understanding is that when unauthentic form of religions, when authentic forms of religions, when they withdraw from the public space, unauthentic forms take over that. So if we withdraw into our own personal spaces, we do not bring the religious values of commitment, brotherhood, sisterhood, and service to the other, and sacrificing for others. These are the religious values in every religion. Love your neighbor is in all religions. In Tamil proverb, there's something called Yadu Ure Yavarum Keli. That means all are our relatives, all are our friends. This is a Tamil religious value. If I don't bring that to public realm, I keep it within myself, all my religious values only to myself, my family. When authentic forms withdraw into personal spaces, the unauthentic forms take over. That's where we need to be authentically, being Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, and Muslims. We are all brothers and sisters. We need to be positively working in the community. And your work, I think it's very important as an educator who tries to bring about this view of understanding, respecting the others, peace clubs, all sorts of small initiative. Everything small is beautiful. Creating a one peace club in the school, people may think, what is going to happen? No, it may be a drop, but that drop makes a difference. You are sowing a seed of good value, peace. When there is a lot of people sowing hatred, they may be sowing in large amount, but you are sowing one seed. That seed is important. God will protect that seed. That's my understanding. So we need to constantly engage without losing hope in where there is a lot of hatred. We need to bring peace. We need to, one person, fine, that's enough. Gandhiji said, no, one person with a deep committed spirit can change the world. That's my response, man. Thank you. Yeah. So also the why dialogue, one more point is we also see a lot of suffering in the world. Too much of suffering. We need not explain that. We know, we have to open our eyes and see suffering of ordinary people, farmers suffering all over the world, and refugees. Large number of people are fleeing as refugees every day. The Mediterranean has become a burial ground for many people. In Europe, some people would call Mediterranean as a wall to stop people coming into Europe. But there are also many people whom I personally know call Mediterranean as a bridge to welcome the brothers and sisters from Africa and West Asia. So Mediterranean should not become a burial ground for our own brothers and sisters. There are a lot of people, including Holy Father Pope Francis, is very strong on that. Mediterranean is a bridge. People who are suffering, they are coming. We should take care of them because they are not simple data, number. They are human persons with a face where the image of God we see. So refugees suffering and ecological and all sorts of oppression, ethnic, cultural, and gender insensitivity, and ecological destruction. So much suffering in the world. So here, what religions we know? We say still there's the religion. People say we celebrate religions. We celebrate several things. But how do we respond to it? And one religion cannot handle this. One group of people cannot handle the world's problem. That's where we need to put our hands together as Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, and people without any religious faith. They are also people of goodwill. We need to put our hands together where we need interreligious dialogue, interreligious understanding, bring that values and put our hands together, serve the refugees during the natural disasters. One who suffers is not a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian. Suffering one is a human person. So we need an interreligious cooperation to engage with the world's suffering. For integral human development, we need to work together. So working together is an imperative. It is not some option. We can take this or not. No, today interreligious dialogue is not an option. Interreligious cooperation is not an option. It is an imperative. If we want to build a world with future, we have no other option but engage in interreligious conversation, interreligious work, interreligious cooperation for common good, for common action, for our shared responsibility. Any question or response, brothers and sisters? I have one more section. What I have learned, how to enhance. Yes, okay.
I think Vishal wanted to ask one more question. I wanted to say something, Vishal.
Yes, I want to ask one more question. It's a slightly offbeat, but I think it's a relevant one. Father, in this during this entire period of pandemic, we somehow started to value the close physical human proximity, the conversations that we used to have with our friends, family, and relatives, and even with the strangers. But with the growing technocratic technologies and scienticism, this the human beings are spending more and more time in the virtual world than engaging with physical conversation with one-on-one with each other. How do you see that these values of love, care would hold good, and how a critical role then they will be able to play in the field of dialogue, or to feel like a human in this increasingly technocratic world?
Thank you, brother. It's a very good, very important question. It's a challenging question today. See, we cannot say no to the technology. We cannot simply say that, oh, we don't use any internet anymore. No. We have come to a stage where it has become a sort of a way of life, being in contact with others through net. Yes. But that's where we need to discern. What helps me to be a better human person? The internet and social media can make me too close within myself, become not in real conversation with others, not opening ourselves to one another, rather detaching oneself. In one family, a husband is busy with his mobile phone, and a wife is with her mobile phone, and the child is with. So there is no real family love. That's the challenge. So that's where each family, each community has to discern how much time or how much what way I'm going to use. Internet is good, social media is good to share our positive views. That's why it is like a knife. Knife can be used for for a surgery where a person is given life. It can also be used as an instrument to to bring death of a person. So it's like something like that similar is the media. It can be used for positive, but we cannot say no. We cannot say that hereafter a knife should be completely banned. Nobody should make knife and all the knives should be returned. So there should not be any knife. That's not possible. Similarly, internet cannot ban it. But how positively I'm using, that's the challenge every individually, familially and community-wise, we need to understand. Yeah. It also can positively help, for an example, there is some tragedy, so it is known and people make crowdfunding and helping. That's also positive uses. Share, care for another human person. It can be also negative. Then we need to discern what takes me closer to the other in respect, what takes me away from God and away from human being. So that we need to personally, in family, we need to reflect on. Yeah, thank you.
Father, we have a guest among us today. His name is Mr. Sameer Yadav. He's a friend of mine, also a dialogue practitioner. He would also like to ask a question, Sir Sameer. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Sure.
Please also turn on your camera if possible.
Hi, good afternoon, Father. It was really nice listening to you, and your personal experience is also very inspiring. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, Father, there is this question in my mind. There are really very good dialogue practitioners like yourself, but the conflicts between religions is very old, and has been there since many years. And at times, some religious leaders try to take advantage of certain verses in the holy books, or certain stories in the books, or maybe the folk stories, to create hatred. So for example, in Bible, there is this verse which says that for you shall worship no other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God, and it is in Exodus 34:14. I've posted in the comment section. So within religion, book, religious text, or the stories or narratives, there are this kind of small incidents which are there, and which are taken advantage of. So how do you think, how do you deal with it when you come across something like this, or what do you think about it?
Thank you, Mr. Sameer. Thank you for your question. See, religious texts should not be stripped away from its context. I think one of the important element we need to keep in mind in interpretation is religious texts cannot be stripped away from its context. The interpretation, we know the text and the history or of the text, and today present context as a reader, all these character come into play. For example, you talked about the God is jealous God, and there is no God but God, Yahweh, and so that is in a particular context in which the Bible talks about a covenant between God and a group of people. So that verse is not against the people of other faiths. So today, if we bring that in a multicultural world, then it becomes a problem. In that context, for a small group of people who were in that history, as it is being the portrayed in the Bible, they were slaves. And then they were liberated. They believed that God liberated them because they are so powerless people living as slaves under the powerful regime, and they cannot liberate themselves. So they feel that God has liberated them, and God made a covenant with them. And now they are not faithful to the covenant. So the prophets say that God is jealous God. He has liberated you. He made covenant with you, and you are unfaithful to the covenant. So it is in a small particular context, it is said. Now, when we take that to a multi-religious context and read that, saying that, no, see, These people say that their God is God, and this gods of other faiths, gods and goddesses of other faiths, or simple, or they don't exist. Then there will be a trouble. So that's why we need to, when we interpret, we need to really, we should not take the text away from its context. That's something very need to be very important. Secondly, for a Christian, we follow Christ. See, Christ is the final ultimate model. In the Bible also you will read, the kings like David and others, they fought wars with other people, killed. So we do not follow King David or King Noah, okay, this prophet Elijah. It's not to say prophet Elijah killed several people. So we do not follow those figures. They're all part of that religious history. But what is most important thing is Jesus. So Jesus is the prism through which we interpret history, interpret the reality of the world. Jesus is compassion, Jesus is forgiveness, Jesus is reconciliation, Jesus is surrender to God's will. So these are the values that in Jesus we are as a Christians, we try, we make effort to adhere to these values. So we need to keep these two prisms. One is, one should not strip the text from the context. Second, we should always see the world through the prism, through the lens of Jesus, his compassion, his forgiveness, his healing touch. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much.
Said, do you want to ask a question?
I just want to comment here.
Okay.
As Father said, it's very important. Can you hear? Am I audible?
Said, your voice is too low. Speak a little louder.
Is it okay now? Better? You cannot hear?
Your voice is too low. Father, can you hear him? I can't, probably.
Can you hear now?
He could type the question if he wants, then others can ask.
Yeah, let me try another way. Can you hear now?
I think it's better, yes.
Surrounding is not very silent, that's why. Okay. Here I just wanted to add a little comment, like my thought. As Father said, context. Yeah, it was also mentioned in the previous sessions as well. Like taking text out of context. We should understand the circumstances. Yeah, the relation, the time of and the time and setting of the revelation, maybe. And here I also have typed it in the chat box. So here jealousy is like not human jealousy. Maybe it's not about not accepting other religions or other things. It's just, I think, not accepting other things than God himself as a creature for or worse to worship. So that's the about worshiping. I meant this, like jealousy of God means here he doesn't accept others being worshipped other than him. So because he granted a lot of things, yeah, for people, like their maybe freedom, their peace. After that, people still are ungrateful and they are trying to find maybe mediators to worship God. So it's about mediators and maybe people seeking other things to worship and being like creating mediators.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, the focus is not about other gods. Actually, the basic, the Bible scholars would say that the focus is not about other gods and goddesses. It is about people's failure to be faithful to God who liberated them. The second point is that text belongs to that time of for that group of people. Now today, what it is not a statement or a condemnation of the gods and goddesses of people, the people of other faiths who worship. It is not about others. Not so we need to keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay, friends. Few things also. Do you have any comment or question before I ask? Okay. And we talked about what is dialogue, and we also talked about why dialogue, and we can quickly look at how to enhance interreligious dialogue. What I picked up from my own personal experiences, I shared. One of the ways we can enhance the interfaith dialogue is to emphasize similarities. When we closely relate with people, read the text, we will come across many similar attitudes, similar values, similar interests, and similar characteristics people of other faiths display. So we need to put more effort to find the common elements. See, it said no birds of same feather flock together. So we need to emphasize the similarities. So it will endear people, oh, you also think this way, oh, it's good. So coming to know the similarities. And see, there is it's also some theoretical thing which I found some time ago. We say this cognitive dissonance theory, it predicts one cannot ignore or despise that which is very similar to oneself, since doing this, so also one is ignoring, it's like, no, it is ignoring and despising oneself. So when we find more and more similarities, it will become more and more harder to despise the other, to ignore the other. Imagine, I thought, what type of example? For example, we are traveling in a train. All of us have the same difficulty. Probably, for example, the train is running so late. All have similar difficulties. So there, no one would despise the other. For example, a child is crying and people are very uncomfortable, elderly people are suffering. So no one will get annoyed with this discomfort and the crying, because everyone recognizes all are going through similar, so more sympathetic towards the other. The suffering, similar suffering, similar joy makes one understand the other better. The cognitions, cognitive dissonance theory is very interesting. So similarities, find the similarities and emphasize those small things, attitudes, values, interests, characteristics. Then second one is how to enhance making the other familiar to me, making myself familiar to the other. I found this a very important learning from my classes. When I begin my sessions on Christian-Muslim relations, I always ask the students to take a sheet of paper, write down, don't worry about anything, simply write down all that comes to your mind when you hear the word Islam or Muslim. Feel free to write on the paper. Here, nobody is going to say anything on that. Then, after they do it, I ask them, just for an exercise sake, tell me what are the positive things you think about the Muslims. when it came up to you? Or what are the negative things? I have seen over the 20 years of teaching, there will be a lot of negative things said. Muslims are like this, Muslims are like that. And also a few positive things. So I put them all on the board. Then I tell them it's a very serious exercise. It is not to make fun. So I prepare them well. And I'm very strict about that. If anybody laughs or makes some fun, I'll tell them, please out. You are not, serious enough for this exercise. I request them to go. I tell them very gently, firmly. Then they say, I'm sorry. And some of them even walked out. I said, fine. If you're walking out, I'm not a loser. Rather, you will be a loser. So it's a serious exercise. Then I tell them, okay, very prayerfully, peacefully look at all this you have said about negative things about Islam and Muslims and positive things. Usually very small few things about positivity. I ask them, where did you get this information from? You said like this, all these things, you see. Where is the information from? Dear friends, believe me, 95%, most of the negative things are from media or hearsay. I heard this thing said, I heard this, or I read that, in the TV or in the serial or in a film, or I heard like this. So most of the negative things are from hearsay. And some, maybe one or two things have personal experience. So that's possible. Over the 25 years of engaging with Muslims, a couple of times I also had negative experience. So I'm not going to generalize that. That person, he was out of his mind, she was out of her mind. He said few things against me, fine. 25 years, 2 incidents. Whereas 25 years, hundreds of incidents of positive interaction. So, and then I asked them, what the positive things you say, where do you get from? And 95%, they are personal experiences. Some family lived next to their family, or a classmate, or a schoolmate, or the sports, they played together, a playmate. So the games, the teammate, very personal experiences. So something which I realized, I learned, familiarity is very important, exposure is important. In order to enhance interreligious relations, exposure, relating to teachings, values, and system of other religions. We need to expose our students. And direct exposure is very useful. That's why in my courses always have exposure. I take the students. I also accompany them. I train them. I prepare them some of the etiquettes, to how to behave in a Muslim family, how to behave oneself in the mosque or in a madrasa or a Sufi shrine. So they really learn it, and then they're the exposure. They meet Muslims. They talk to them. So to enhance personal exposure, personal experience, and increased contact should be. That's why increased contact should be encouraged. By doing this, we can enhance the interfaith relations. So in this course of being exposed, become familiar with the other becomes familiar. The behaviors become predictable, and we become more comfortable with them. The more I relate with people, for example, in a Buddhist monastery, I know how I need to behave myself. I know how to behave myself, how to respond to a Sufi shrine. When I go to listen to a Qawwali, how I should place myself. So more and more you become familiar, you become comfortable. You feel at ease. And many of the students, first time they enter into a mosque or a masjid, They always had some thinking about. So they find something, oh, it's very interesting, very respectful, very hospitable, generous. So proximity and familiarity is important. And thirdly, the proximity. Proximity also increases familiarity. Proximity, knowing each other, then we begin to interact with one another, we begin to cooperate with one another, collaborate with one another. So cooperation and collaboration makes a proximity. For example, just quick example of by a relationship with India Law Foundation. It started with a small experience for the there is one professor Leo Lefebvre. He teaches in Georgetown University. He's a good friend of Hizmat movement, and he came. Another very close friend of mine, Professor Catholic priest Father Tom Michel. He introduced me to him, and when Leo Lefebvre came, he came and stayed with me. I took him around, and he gave a lecture, a small, introduction with Ideologue Foundation. Now, several years, we collaborate, we cooperate with each other. Not for personal something, but for others, for the service of the others, to bring people together, inclusive. Today, you see in this group, people have different faiths. We are together, listening to one another and reflecting with one another. So these are the ways in which we can enhance interfaith relations. And finally, final thought is who engages in dialogue? Dialogue has different dimensions, different ways. So one simple one is dialogue of life. We all live together, knowing the others, celebrating their festivals, participating in it, learning. Dialogue of life. Dialogue of spirituality, entering into the spiritual realm. For example, Paul Jackson studying Sufi Saint Sharafdin Maneri is a dialogue of spirituality. As a Christian, he wrote a book, Guided by Maneri. He is a Christian. He feels that he is guided by a Muslim saint. That is the dialogue of spirituality. And dialogue of action for a common, caring for the Mother Earth, caring for common action, as a village or a mohalla or students together. We shall work together. See, this road is not clean. So we put our hands together, clean that. Dialogue of action. And finally, a much higher level, a dialogue of intellectual, theological discussion, where theological concepts are discussed, revelation, holiness, this more on an intellectual level. So that is one dialogue. So these are the different forms of dialogue. So any questions or any reflections, brothers and sisters?
Anybody? Usa, you wanted a dialogue practitioner to hold a session, so Father Victor is one of them. Do you have a comment or a question, maybe?
So, which is why I was probably just listening. So I do not really have any reflections as such. If at all, I would like to get in touch with Father Victor.
Okay. Anybody else? Mario?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Father. I don't have a question as such, but I just wanted, there is this experience that I would just like to share, considering that I studied from a convent school, Mater Dei, which I guess you have heard of. Mater Dei is one of the convent schools in Delhi, and me and my sister, we both have studied from there. And the kind of secularism, the kind of, amalgamation of all the cultures that the school has taught me as a missionary school, it was remarkable. It has stayed with me till now. And I mean, yeah, there were instances during the school time where, because of my faith, there were times when I had been victimized, saying that, just go to Pakistan, you're a Muslim, and all of those things. But in general, in totality, the kind of safe space and the kind of teachings, and the way I have evolved as a person because of that one particular convent school, it holds a very deep importance in my life. So yes, it plays a huge role. And like when I was hearing you, Father, it just I just felt that, maybe, when in school we used to have like the sisters talking, and there were times when we used to have like, with other schools. So it just seemed like that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to you.
I would just tell +1 to Maria, actually, because I also came from the same background. So
Thank you. Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother.
Father, there is a question from Mushtaq Sikandar. I think there's a problem with his internet, so he has written the question in the chat box. I will read it out for you. He says, interfaith dialogue has been and still is an elite endeavor. Only civil society activists, scholars, ulama are part of it. How to make it broad-based as problem is with the masses. So how to overcome this limitation as problem and negative perception lies among the masses? Please enlighten.
Thank you, brother, for that question. I very briefly, I said in the last comment, see, dialogue is elite. That may be the theological dialogue, talking about holiness in different religions, seminars or conferences, publications, books. That is one form. That is a very small number of people involved. That's why I said dialogue of life. Dialogue of life where, for example, here live in civil lines, Delhi. For Christmas, we said we will celebrate an inter-religious Christmas festival. So we invited this Brahmakuari sisters. They are close by, and then we invited our Hindu, Muslim. We don't have any actually Christian neighbors. We are the only people, and people of other faiths in the same. It's a sort of the street Rajnivas Marg is not very many people, because it's where the governor lives, where the three or four ministers of Delhi government live, and then some apartments, and some IAS officers live close to. So plus there are some poor families. So we invited all. Number of them came. Some I think around 20 or 22 people came. So we celebrated together. So in small way, taking an initiative of celebrating in an interfaith way. So the message was given on Christmas by the Madam Governor's wife. She gave the message, and our Didi of this Brahmakuari Didi, she gave another message. So it's an interfaith way. So we need to do, it's not something which comes from above. We need to dialogue of life. We need to recognize our faith differences and bring together. And dialogue of action, where there is for a peace, for religious, religious understanding. We need to. It is not, cannot come from up. It should come from within. It should come from us. You make an effort, there will be one or two people who will joining you. The committed spirit of one or two people can transform. That's what Gandhiji said. He's not saying something from vacuum. He says from his own experience. That's when we need to really know it also challenges our own personal way of life. How much I am thinking of the other to be at the service, not to gain more, but to lose, to serve, to give? Thank you. That's a challenging question, indeed.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, we will conclude the session.
Brother, just one word I want to share with
Yes.
that, but other brothers and sisters. You also mentioned that. See, I edit a journal called Salaam. It's a small journal. I'll be happy to send you online. It's a Salaam, as a brother said, it's to promote interfaith understanding, Christian-Muslim relations, but not inclusive. It is inclusive of respect for all the religions, but specifically on Christian-Muslim relations. I'll be very happy to send you online the PDF copies, and also I'll be regularly happy to send that to you. So I'll put my, Brother Bez, may I put my email ID in the space,
Yes.
whether the others could.
Yes, or I can also send your email address to everybody.
Okay.
I will do that. I will share your email ID with everybody. They can send an email to you. Be in touch.
So, brothers and sisters, whoever would like to see the journal, it's freely distributed on the internet. I'll be happy to send you regularly.
Thank you. Zia, do you have a question? Ziaul Hassan?
Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, I have one question to Father. Thank you, Lord, Father, for your beautiful lecture. Actually, I have one question that on all these interfaith dialogue meeting and gathering, I usually saw the people or the religious gurus or teachers from the different faiths will take part in it, and they represent those meetings. But what I observed that the follow means they not in a position to have dialogue with the other religion. So what is the main reason behind this? Means the religious guru and the leaders are happy to dialogue with each other, but not their followers. So which thing is responsible for that? Because they actually every religious follower worship their religion, and they respect a lot to their religious gurus. So if they are favoring dialogue, then what the thing that is hindering that? So that's my question.
Yeah, I think it's a very important question. For example, Pope Francis emphasized interfaith relations, and he's very clear on that. The recent document of he and the rector of Al-Azhar University, At-Tayyib, they signed together human fraternity, tangible ways of building a human world that is fraternal. Today's world is broken into pieces. How do we heal this world? How do we build this world? He and the rector of Azhar together wrote that fraternal human fraternity document, in which they say together benevolence and solidarity. Benevolence is good for feeling good for all, and solidarity, striving to do justice for all, are the two important tools to build up a society that is a fraternal society, tangible way of building a fraternal society. We need to have benevolence. We need to stand in solidarity with others. So Pope Francis is emphasizing, but do all Christians do it? No. It is sad that many sort of resist Pope Francis, especially in Europe, because Pope Francis is very much open to receiving people, refugees, whereas many governments and even churches are not that open. So that's where I think what is important is the selfishness. If I am under the influence of selfishness, my sensibility towards others is lost. I will try to not get as much as possible for me. I would not be really concerned about the others. So the real challenge is the selfishness is actually the sinfulness. Closing on to on myself. I and my family, or I'm good, that's enough. Whether the world lives or dies, I am not worried about. That type of selfishness really blocks us to come out of ourselves to be at the service of the poor. Come out of ourselves to receive others who are marginalized, who are refugees, who are sick or poor. I think that's where the followers, we Christians, many of us are resisting Holy Father Pope Francis's efforts to deepen the understanding with suffering people, brothers and sisters of the world.
Fozia Niazi.
Good evening, Father. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, Father, today's session was really good. As though my sister mentioned that we have been in a convent school, we've studied in a convent school, and I have to tell you, this was supposed to, like, the whole school life was the most secular we've ever felt in a school. I used to teach in Vivekanand school. There, shift from a convent school to Vivekanand school was quite difficult because they don't. They are not really secular when it comes to celebrating every religion. So thankfully, our school was way, way better when it came to that. So considering that today's session was really good, thank you so much, Father, for today's session.
Both of you, Fauzia and Maria, are sisters.
Yes, they are.
God bless. Wonderful.
Yes, Father.
Abul Kalam Azad.
Hello, good evening, sir. Just I want to add one point. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, just I want to add one point. Is I mean, this interreligious dialogue processes. I mean, there about the process. I'm going to ask a question. Let's see if we see that around the world, this interreligious dialogue is being just misused in many cases. If we start from USA, France, this India, some country, and many countries. I mean, let's say even in USA, before the election, India, whoever the president is, they're trying to make a connection with the Jewish leader or called Rabbi or some other Christian leader. I mean, to gain the empathy from the specific religion. I mean, in France also, I mean, due to the pressure from, just this is my opinion, from the Christian, I mean, rightist party, I mean, they are pressuring toward the Muslim that you have to follow this kind of rule. In case of this Indian, some continent also, I mean, just the Muslim leader, I mean, they are using this inter-religious dialogue or talking with the other religion. I mean, they are misusing it. What is your view about it? This is my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Abul Kalam Azad, for your question. See, it's very simple to see. When religion is mixed with politics, it is lethal. Religion, politics for selfish motives, to, what's the word? Aggrandize, I'm not getting the right word, to capture power. When I use religion and politics, that is lethal, and it will destroy the unity of people. And it is obvious. I'm using religion for my political purpose to get into power. Wherever it is being done, there people the unity of people is destroyed. The harmony of people live, the coexistence is being disturbed. That's where that's politics. So people should resist that. People should resist that. We are Christians, we are Muslims, we are brothers and sisters, we exist together. But we will we will use our democratic rights in a democratic way. So if people resist in large numbers the game of politicians, then there is future. If people also fall into this trap, then it's a real struggle. So religion and politics for selfish motives, for power, then it will destroy the harmony, destroy the coexistence of people that we see.
Sabiha More.
Father, I don't know, when people talk about interreligious faith, I don't know, I'm hell-bent to think that there is so much of problem with intra-religious faith as well. You must have not forgotten, not even a week ago, 143 people were massacred in Nigeria, poor farmers who had traveled 1,000 kilometers to earn daily, like their daily wages, by none other than Boko Haram, which is supposed to be a Muslim organization, and they massacred Muslim people. Forget about other things that people do under the name of religion. I'm not in. What is your take on intra faith dispute that happens all over the world, and none other than they massacre their own brethren? Okay, when an interfaith problem happens, there are so many fingers pointing that this religion did this and that religion did this and this leader told this and that leader told this. What is the take of people when there is an intra-religious acrimony? There is animosity between same religion with different sects. Different sects, like one sect says this is correct and the second says this is correct, and maybe, God bless you, you are correct, you follow your own way of life. I am correct, I will follow my own way of life. Nobody is trying to point me and tell me how am I to live my life. But then there is a problem. No, it is my way or the highway. So when you meet such people in your journey of making interfaith dialogue more pliable in society, what is the experience that you have when people have intra-religious faith, Father? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this question. It's also a very important question. See, no religion is out of this mess historically. When Reformation in the 16th century or 15th century, when 15th or 16th century Reformation, the Catholics and Protestants fought many wars, and Protestant clergy was killed by Catholic clergy was killed by Protestant people, even into the last decade of the 20th century in Ireland. The Irish Republic Army, the Catholic Irish Republic Army, was killing Protestants, burning their homesteads in the 1920s. So Christianity has its own painful story of in the sectarial faith, fight or killing and acrimony between different Christian groups. But fortunately, after 1960s onwards, there are many important efforts made by the Pope and other patriarchs of other churches to come to an understanding, sort of a harmonious existence. We are Orthodox Christians, Greek Orthodox, Armenian, and Catholics, Protestants, Anglicans. We live. So there is a World Council of Churches in Geneva. It was established. So several churches who are fighting, they are become one. They didn't become one together, but they are members of the church. So more and more understanding, theological understanding, the political. In Istanbul to make good relationship, sustainable relationship. So it's a ecumenical journey. So there was past was like that. The present is slowly improving. So similarly, in the other faiths also, for example, among within Islam, Shia-Sunni conflict is also a painful conflict. So we don't point the finger on others. Before I point the finger on others, say my own faith tradition also has this. So as you say, the ecumenical intra-faith is very important. If I don't be happy to stay in my own family, my own brother and sister, how I can be a peacemaker somewhere outside? That's a very important question. I need to make effort. So today, ecumenical dialogue is very strong, very profitable in the sense of helping, coming together and working together. For example, in Hyderabad, Henry Martin Institute is an ecumenical institute. I work with them very closely. Then they're very much, they really help me, support me, a number of my initiatives. So it's an intra-faith initiatives have become more and more common. Also, we have our own difficulties, but we need to constantly cope up with that. That's very important.
Thank you, Father.
Welcome, man. Thank you.
Okay, Father, do you have something to add, or do we conclude here? You're muted.
I'm really grateful to you, Brother Behzad. I'm also, as a young person, as you are a very young person, and I'm inspired by your commitment to this interfaith cooperation, interfaith literacy. You are giving an opportunity for all of us to learn from one another. I always feel that I don't teach. Rather, we are all learners, co-learners. Your questions, your comments made me to reflect deeply, to take that into prayer, to take into my reflection. So you gave us an opportunity. In fact, I thank you for giving an opportunity to be together as co-learners this afternoon. I'm sincerely, and I really appreciate your patience and perseverance in this important dimension of today's world. And your contribution is something very important. India Loud's contribution is important. I appreciate it. And also I thank all the brothers and sisters for their questions, for their comments. I feel really enlightened by your presence. Thank you, sisters and brothers.
Thank you so much, Father Victor. We at In Dialogue Foundation have known you for years, and we know you for your sincerity and passion towards interfaith dialogue. And thank you for conducting today's session with equal passion and sincerity.